Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The Sensex and the Nifty ended the day's high after a late recovery. Bank stocks shine, mid-caps outperform. Gold prices remain near record highs on the occasion of Dhanteras. The Economic Affairs Secretary Ajay Sheth says 7% growth is very much doable in the current fiscal. He expects strong growth in Q3 and Q4. Also confident of meeting the FY25 capex target despite slower capital spends by some states. Women and children among 77 people killed in an Israeli airstrike on northern Gaza. The death toll in Gaza crosses 43,000. At least 60 more people killed in eastern Lebanon in Israeli strikes, taking the death toll in the country to more than 2,700. Maruti Suzuki misses estimates in Q2. Profit down 17%. Margins at a 5-quarter low. Positive commentary on festive demand helps the stock recoup some losses, but the management warns of weak demand after the festive season. Bharti Airtel reports a better than expected Q2, but leadership change announcement weighs on the stock. The Chief Operating Officer Shashwat Sharma will succeed Gopal Vittal as the MD and CEO starting January 2026. Vittal says he remains fully committed to the group and will take on some roles that Sunil Mittal looks at today. Market regulator Secy poses 5 questions to Axis Bank and Max Financial over the terms of their merger. Asked if the discounted pricing was arrived at to benefit Axis Bank. Also asked why action should not be taken against the entities for hurting investor interests. That's an exclusive. The union government moots incentives for data centres under the revised policy. Sources say merely setting up a data centre is unlikely to be incentivised. Benefits will be linked to the compute power provided by data centres. Nagpur police identify a 35-year-old man as the person behind a series of hoax bomb threats to airlines. A special team has been formed to arrest him. More than 400 flights have been disrupted due to bomb hoaxes in the last 2 weeks. A 17-year-old from Chhattisgarh is the only suspect to be detained so far. Trump and Harris continue their campaigning in key swing states. Kamala Harris reaches out to young voters in Michigan, urges them to turn the page. Trump campaigns in Georgia, tells the crowd at a rally that he is the opposite of a Nazi amidst criticism of the Madison Square Garden event. Outgoing President Biden casts an early ballot in Delaware. Well, let's head straight to the market action of the day. The Lal Street made a smart recovery from intraday lows, ending at the day's high. The Nifty and the Sensex ended about 0.5% higher today, so 127 points higher. For the Nifty, the Sensex adding about 360 points. A 1,000-point jump there on the Nifty Bank. We saw strong numbers coming in for some of the banks. The Nifty Auto was down in the red, down by about 1.5%, and concerns there on demand clearly weighing on the stocks. As I pointed out, banks batting for the bulls and the Nifty Bank soaring 2% higher. PSU banks fared even better with the PSU Bank Index rallying 3% for the second day in a row. So that's the picture as far as the markets are concerned. But global gold prices lingering near record highs today, supported by uncertainty surrounding the upcoming US presidential election. Meanwhile, some profit taking pushing silver prices marginally lower. This after hitting a 12-year high. Back home, the yellow metals prices hit record highs on the day of Dhanteras, with silver following suit. Manisha is here with more. Manisha, what's triggering the rally on Dhanteras?
Yes, it's an all-time high of gold and silver prices this Dhanteras to you. Well, remember, people buy on Dhanteras or they start something anew, believing that whatever you buy or start this day will multifold, manyfold going forward. And it has been a tradition for many, many years. But this time around, there's a bit of a dent here because you are looking at all-time high prices for gold and silver. In the international markets, we've seen gold prices trade above $27.50 an ounce. In the Indian markets, it's trading at 80,000 rupees at 10 grams on Dhanteras today, perhaps 81,000 as well if you add making charges to that. It's the same case for silver also, 12-year highs in the international markets, but the Indian prices are trading at 1 lakh rupees. Well, last year the prices were trading at around 70,000, so it has been a huge jump up that you've seen come in for silver prices. It has been strong gains across, and that is because we are looking at a lot of buying in the international markets because of the safe haven buying that gold sees. And this is happening even as there is some restraint that we've seen from Israel and Iran. So somewhat of a war premium seems to have gone down. And then apart from that, the Treasury yields are trading at a 3-month highs. The dollar index is headed for a best monthly gain since April 2022. Even with all of this, there is no decline or respite that you've seen for gold and silver. In fact, the traders are watching out the geopolitical tensions in the global markets. It is also about global central bank buying and a lot of uncertainty because of the US presidential elections as well. So you want to stay invested in tangible commodities, and what better than gold and silver there. I want to take you through prices on what the prices have been on Dhanteras in last many years. So if I can take you through that, in 2019, we were trading at prices of around 38,000 rupees. And then after 2 or 3 years, we've been trading between that 45 to 55,000 rupees. But it was last year that the prices were trading at 60,000 rupees on Dhanteras. And this time around, as you can see, we are at 80,000. So 20,000 rupees per 10 grams of a price rise in the matter of last 1 year. Also, silver has been rising as well. As I told you, last year was 70,000 rupees. This time is a lakh rupees. And this is what we've done in sense of silver imports into the country. It was at record in 2022, fell in the 2023 because we already had imported a lot of silver. And this year, until now, we've done 7,000 tons of imports already. This is a very interesting chart which tells you that on an average on Diwali Dhanteras week, we buy 20 to 25 tons of silver and 500 to 800 tons of silver as well. So between gold and silver, the markets do anticipate that this number could go higher in this year. One, because the trust in gold and silver is high. Two, there are various ways of buying it. And three, with the kind of returns that you have seen come in for gold and silver, markets believe that the returns could only go higher going forward.
Well, Manisha, many thanks for joining us. So record moves there for both gold and silver. And speaking of prices, Bitcoin prices have crossed the $70,000 mark for the first time since June. This is inflows into dedicated exchange-traded funds rose amid speculation about the results of the U.S. presidential elections next week. Experts say the market is pricing in a victory for Donald Trump, who has endorsed cryptocurrencies during his campaign. Now, tensions in West Asia remain one of our top stories. The Israeli parliament has passed a law banning the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees from operating on Israeli territory and areas under its control. The ban will take effect in 90 days and will lead to the closure of the UN agency's premises in West Bank and Gaza. World leaders have denounced the ban and called the move intolerable and illegal. The UN agency has slammed the move as outrageous. An Israeli airstrike has also destroyed a 5-story residential building sheltering displaced families in Gaza. The attack has killed at least 65 Palestinians and wounded dozens. Meanwhile, Lebanon's health ministry has confirmed that at least 60 people have been killed after an Israeli attack on eastern Lebanon. In the oil market, crude oil prices inched up after tumbling nearly 6% in the previous session. This after a U.S. plan to buy 3 million barrels of oil for its emergency reserve provided some support. However, larger concerns about weaker demand in the future have exerted more pressure as far as prices are concerned. Now, back home, Prime Minister Modi launched healthcare-related projects worth nearly 13,000 crore rupees today. The government's flagship insurance scheme, the Ayushman Bharat, was also extended to all senior citizens above the age of 70. The healthcare push was announced on the occasion of the 9th Ayurveda Day. The Prime Minister launched Phase 2 of the All India Institute of Ayurveda. He also launched drone services at 11 tertiary healthcare institutions. Well, joining me now to discuss the government's healthcare agenda, and specifically its agenda as far as PLI schemes for pharma and the medtech sector is concerned, is Arunish Chawla, the Secretary at the Department of Pharmaceuticals. Mr. Chawla, always a pleasure. Appreciate you joining us here on CNBC-TV18. We saw the Prime Minister this morning inaugurate some projects. Mr. Chawla, if I can start by asking you for a status check of the PLI schemes that have been in operation. What is the cumulative number in terms of investments so far? And if you can give us a status check on what has been operationalized so far. Mr. Chawla, can you hear me? We seem to be having some trouble there. We will re-establish contact with the Pharma Secretary in just a second. But let's move to the big newsmaker this evening. The Economic Affairs Secretary Ajay Sheth says that 7% growth is very much doable in the current fiscal. Speaking exclusively to CNBC-TV18, he said the economy could see strong growth in Q3 and Q4 in this fiscal. He also said the government is confident of meeting the FY25 capex target despite slower capital spends by some states. Listen in.
What is the government's thinking? Do you foresee that we will be able to achieve 7% growth target?
Certainly. These are the estimates, and not just that RBI has estimated. Even if you look at what the IMF latest estimates are, They're also of the order of about 7% for the current financial year. So these are very much doable numbers, and one should not go by the first quarter number, which came at 6.7%.
Sure.
There are reasons behind it why those numbers were 6.7%, but we see that a very strong growth to come in the third quarter as well as in the fourth quarter. And of course, second quarter numbers will also be expected by 30th November. We'll have those numbers another month's time, and we do expect that overall year growth should be of the order of 4%.
Well, that is the Economic Affairs Secretary Ajay Sheth. Maruti Chairman R.C. Bhargav says the industry is not optimistic about the surge in demand after the festive season. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, Mr. Bhargav added that Maruti expects 14% growth in retail sales in the festive season till Diwali. Take a look.
In this festival season, we have seen a good traction in the market. The retail sales went up by 14%. The new bookings crossed 4 lakhs and about 16,000. So at the moment, the order book is quite healthy. We have yet to see what happens after the festival season ends with Diwali or a few days after Diwali. We don't know. But overall, we are not, the industry is not very optimistic that there's going to be a great upsurge in demand.
Well, that is R.C. Bhargav there of Maruti. And more from the pharma sector, where Cipla's Q2 performance was in line with expectations. Quarterly profits grew 15% ahead of estimates. Revenue in line, rising by 6% compared to last year. Cipla said the growth in revenue was led by its businesses in South Africa and emerging markets. Adani Ports and Special Economic Zone saw its net profit jumping by 40% on a year-on-year basis in Q2. Revenue up 6% to 7,000 crore rupees. EBITDA margin up to 62%. The Adani Group company expects a revenue of 31,000 crore rupees in FY25. Canara Bank's second quarter numbers in line with street estimates. The bank's net profit rose 11.3%. Net interest income jumped 4.6% on an annual basis. Asset quality improved sequentially, reporting the best set of numbers in more than 37 quarters. Bharti Airtel reported a better than expected Q2. However, leadership change announcement has weighed on the stock. The company's COO, Shashwat Sharma, will succeed the current CEO, Gopal Vittal, as the managing director and CEO starting January of 2026. In an earnings call, Vittal said that he remains fully committed to the group. Take a look.
Shashwat will be appointed CEO designate and will take over the role of MD and CEO on January 1, 2026. Shashwat joined us in 2018 from Hindustan Unilever. Over these last 6 years, he's been given a series of well-thought-through and planned experiences where he has created impact. I will be stepping up to the role of Vice Chair and MD for this year, 2025, and eventually as Executive Vice Chair for Bharti Airtel.
Well, that's Gopal Vittal on the leadership change announcement where he will hand over to Shashwat, the current CEO, in 2026. Now, joining me to discuss the government's healthcare agenda, specifically its plans for the PLI schemes that are currently underway, is Arunesh Chawla, the Secretary of the Department of Pharmaceuticals. Mr. Chawla, always a pleasure. Many thanks for joining us. We saw the Prime Minister inaugurating some projects today. Mr. Chawla, I want to understand from you, the pharma sector was the first sector to see the PLI schemes being rolled out and operationalized. If you can give us a status check of the quantum of investments made so far, as well as how many projects stand operational today.
Thank you very much. As you know, today is the Dhanvantri Divas, and we are celebrating it as the Health Day. And today the Honorable Prime Minister launched the PMJ, which is a very massive launch, a new initiative for the elderly citizens. And it will provide them free healthcare and free treatment. This is a very important and long-awaited initiative. In addition, to mark the Health Day and the Dhanvantri Divas, Honorable Prime Minister launched several health projects, including Jan Aushadhi Kendras, and he also launched the PLI, the major PLI projects. As you know, this is a very important component of Make in India initiative. And today, about 5 large PLI projects were selected, picked up for launch. And these projects are so massive that they will change the pharma and meditech landscape in the country. In these plants, they are all greenfield plants. They have come bottom up. And in these plants, coronary stents, heart valves, critical care equipment, body implants, they will all be manufactured within the country. And now they will meet our domestic demand, and they will also meet the export demand of other countries. This is a massive watershed moment. In addition to this, the Honorable Prime Minister also launched the penicillin and the clavulanic acid producing plants. As you know, these are basic molecules which are the basis of all popular antibiotics on the market, including ampicillin, amoxicillin, amoxiclav, augmentin. And when any industry matures to start making these basic molecules and fermentation product, it's a sign of great maturity. And that is what the Honorable Prime Minister launched today. And after, I would say, around 3 decades, these important molecules, this important industry, and the basis of pharma industry is now coming back to our shores. And we celebrated this today by encouraging everyone, and Make in India was at display, and with it, the pharma industry, the meditech industry, which has now become the 4th largest export manufacturing industry for the country, it's a pride moment for all.
Right. Well, lots to talk about, Mr. Chawla. Let's break this up. Let's pick up the pharma as well as the meditech PLI projects that you spoke of. The launch that was announced today of 5 projects, what's the cumulative investments on account of these 5 projects that were launched today by the Prime Minister? Mr. Chawla? Mr. Chawla, can you hear me?
Yes.
Seem to have lost that line, but could you hear me, Mr. Chawla?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I was asking you the 5 projects launched by the Prime Minister today. Could you give us the indicative number of what the investment entails?
The 5 projects launched today specifically involve a greenfield investment of 5,000 crores. But otherwise, in the PLI schemes put together, about 30 to 35,000 crores has already been invested. And this accounts for the 50 to 55 projects that have been launched so far. Another 30 in the pipeline. And more important than investment is what they have achieved. I mean, they have achieved Atmanirbharta for India. And they have achieved import substitution and saved us precious foreign exchange. And going forward, these industries are so competitive that they are now penetrating the export markets.
So if you can break up that for us in terms of the quantum of exports that we're now doing from India, what has been the incremental jump and what is the expectation over the next few years as more and more of these plants come on stream? And more importantly, in terms of import substitution, how much have we been able to curtail in terms of API imports?
As you know, for the pharma and meditech industry, this is a watershed moment. In the closing year, as per the data and the evidence that is available, half of India's pharma and biological output was exported. So in effect, as the moment we cross a 50% barrier, the industry officially becomes an export-oriented industry. In addition to that, we broke a very important stereotype. And that is that India is no more just an importer of bulk drugs. Last year, India exported as many bulk drugs as it imported. So we achieved for the first time in the closing year trade balance between imports and exports as far as bulk drugs are concerned. Going forward, there are 4 structural changes that are coming about in the industry. The industry is maturing fast, and the pharma industry is now moving upstream. There is a clear evidence of backward induction and backward integration with bulk drugs, drug intermediates, and starting materials, and so many PLI plants going live and producing APIs in the country. Parallelly, a biological and biosimilar ecosystem is now fast growing in the country. And if growth numbers are any evidence, then the biosimilars and the biological segment is now outpacing the growth in generics. And if I can give you some numbers, then already 100 biosimilars and complex generic molecules have been approved in our country, and 40 plus of them are in clinical development. This is among the highest anywhere in the world. In addition to this, a very rich and comprehensive CRDMO ecosystem is now developing in the country. CRDMO, as you know, stands for Contract Research Development Manufacturing Organization. This is a basic R&D industry which employs a large number of our graduates, large number of our engineers and technicians. And this industry is growing breakneck. As far as the latest data is that we have analyzed, the CRDMO industry in our country is now growing at 12 to 14%. And if you see the collateral evidence, see evidence of this in the markets abroad, in the closing year, 1/3 of abbreviated new drug applications in the US FDA, they came from the Indian sites, the Indian sources, and the Indian CRDMO industry. If you put all this together, pharma and meditech, which is presently around 70 billion, is poised to almost double by 2030. And going forward, the future is even brighter.
Right, Mr. Chawla, we will leave it there. Appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV18. That is the Pharma Secretary Arunesh Chawla there on a status check of the PLI schemes as well as what they hold for the future. Up next, Nagpur police identify a 35-year-old man as the person behind a series of hoax bomb threats to airlines. A special team has been formed to arrest him, but no arrest has been made so far. That and more when we return. The Nagpur police has identified a 35-year-old man as the person behind a series of hoax bomb threats to airlines. Remember, the aviation sector has received over 400 hoax bomb threats in the last 14 days. Madiha standing by with the details. Madiha, what are you picking up? This individual has not been apprehended by the police so far.
Well, the special branch of Nagpur police has identified this man with the name Jagdish Uke. He's 35 years old, and an official told CNBC TV18 that he's the man who sent several hoax bomb threats to various airlines. He's currently on the run after the bomb threats were traced back to him. The police have formed a special team to arrest this perpetrator. There's limited information about him at the moment, but what we have been told is that this man has a history of such mischiefs, and he was also arrested in 2021 in some case. He also authored a book on terrorism. It will be a major breakthrough if the police manages to arrest this man and proves that he is indeed the one behind the hoax bomb threats. If not all, then at least some of them. Now, this has been a never-seen-before situation in India's aviation history. Over 400 flights, as you mentioned, received bomb threats, mostly online in the last 14 days. And there has been limited clue on the motive and the hands behind these threat messages.
Well, that is right. Only one arrest has been made so far in this matter for a minor from Chhattisgarh. And even as Madiha was pointing out, while the police believe that they have traced the suspect, but they have not apprehended him yet. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. The news will continue. Stay right here on CNBC TV18.